And this piece raises a number of questions of how this world operates under the shadows, radars, scope and understanding of many of the world's population. There has been some wonderful interactions in the past with off-world groups, but our more recent exposure has largely not been kind to mankind. Some of our recent interactions with the off-world below our feet have been far more profitable, and the engagement by and large has been beneficial to both groups. But that's down to the peace treaty. But what these events, the Roswell and the Aztec crashes, did is it created fake acts like the National Security Act, fake trade deals globally, most of which were for off-world trading. The Trans-Pacific and Transatlantic deals are just two examples of that. Swiss Indo, a major player in that off-world trading role, and largely at our expense. Fake agencies created for the sole purpose of secrecy. Shell companies created with the sole purpose of funneling money away from the people and into their black budget and clandestine programs, of which only they benefit from. Fake news to deflect any real news, all operated by the same above groups, raises deeply important questions to the people listening to this of where do we go from here? Do we continue to allow these power-mad psychopaths to harvest our energy, siphon vast funds off of the people to fund their shell companies and agencies, and allow them to continue to deny us real knowledge, real advanced technology, which is actually old, and real solutions to our global problems, whilst they all keep it a secret to protect the church program? Why the church program, you may say? Because at the very heart of the issue surrounding ETs and disclosure is the denial of information lies with the church and their off-world religious programs is why. This is the main reason it is kept a secret. Because the people will find out that the gods, the Lord, the disciples, angels and demons, etc. in the Bible and other scriptures were all these EBEs using us against our will, through ignorance, fear and a lack of knowledge denied to us. The think tank clowns ran an AI-based scenario of ET disclosure a couple of decades ago, and it forecasted that 2.3 billion would commit suicide with that knowledge. Why? Because ET disclosure brings an end to all the religions is why. The two go directly hand in hand. There is no division between them whatsoever. Religion was created to deny humans direct access to source and have us all worship off-world entities as our new god or gods. The EBE told you that himself in his responses. All religions have their origin from the Hebrew Anunnaki script. All of them. You are not Christian, Catholic, Muslim, Islam, or Protestant, or any other derivative. Because if you follow religion, you are a disciple of the Torah and Talmud, both of which were written at the request of and for and by these off-world entities. Thoth and the emerald green tablets was a Pleiadian Nibiru planet disciple and part of one of the 5 groups that made up the Anunnaki. 2 were humanoid, 1 reptile, 1 insect, and 1 avian group, which is the origin of Thoth. And then you have the Sirius star elements and their centenary zones, Dogons and the Black Cube, which is dotted all around the world, but its main centre of operations is the Mecca. The cornerstone of the Black Mecca Cube is a Sirius star-based energy harvesting stone for the off-world entities. And they get the Muslim people to spiral anti-clockwise around the stone, because anti-clockwise is the main mode of energy harvesting, just like the former banking system. That spiraling creates an energy vortex that is then collected by the stone and the cube. And the problem is the vast majority on this planet have no idea just how precious that life force energy is. It is the most precious resource on this planet, and yet so many give it away so frivolously, none more so than in the act of praying. The act of praying is an energy harvesting practice. Look up and give your energy to your sky god or gods. But they actually tell you what they're doing to you in the pronunciation of the word. It is not pray, P-R-A-Y, but you are their prey, P-R-E-Y. Read the books again with an open, critical thinking and common sense mindset. It's riddled with more contradictions than a Drake show. Famine, pestilence, plagues, nuclear war, divide and conquer, deleting the common human language so people wouldn't coalesce. Incest, bestiality, multiple wives, denying the mother with their Father, Son and Holy Ghost mantra. Mary sleeping with a ghost, immaculate conceptions, trees going on fire and talking to you, talking snakes. God throwing his children away for eating an apple, and Jewish people rocking back and forth kissing a stone wall like some in-house mental patients, and people think this is normal. Alas, but I am just a conspiracy theorist, people will say. But at least I have my own mind and my own theory, and not blindly follow a script that looks increasingly ridiculous with each line you read. None of it makes any rational sense whatsoever. And I am genuinely sorry for all who took part or still do take part in that program. I really am. The extraterrestrial has just told you what it was, a fantasy because we wouldn't accept the old truths. And you have all been duped on a massive scale. And deep down within you, you all know that, when the narrative has some real light shone upon it. The religious program is at the core of the full denial of ET disclosure. But when you find your real God again, source, you will know exactly why I have this opinion and stance. And a reminder of what the EBE told us in this transcript: you all bought into the religious fantasy. One of the things that jumped out of this exchange is the dropping off of the children, like some grocery delivery service. Whose children are they? What is their genetic mix? Are they all human or in part hybrid? And if so, which race is the hybrid and why? Now we know Eisenhower allowed them to abduct 2% of Americans, and it went much further than that. And by 1980, it was becoming a massive problem of the level of peoples who were being abducted, all of which was stopped after the signing of the peace treaty in 2016. But where are the records of those who were abducted kept? And at which point are they going to release those details? Don't the people who were abducted have the right to know? How many are actually aware that they were abducted to begin with? And if they argue it is psychologically damaging to tell the people they were abducted, then why wasn't that considered before this program was agreed to? Did these so-called people consider the long-term psychological effects on people who have had these experiences, only to be told you are hallucinating, swamp gas, or mentally ill? The psychological damage has already been done, and the people have a right to know if their names are on those lists. But the greater questions it raises, and connected to us all, is: how many here are really human? And how far does the hybrid genetics program go? Remember, I kept speaking of the 85-15 split and the potential of only 15% being organic humans. Are the humans here really only 15% in number? Is the real question many of you are or should be pondering on now. And it begs the question, does that 85-15 split I mentioned in 3 or 4 shows on the bounce now make more sense as to what was being revealed? When you consider they spoke about the cloned bot greys a whole race created to be slaves permanently? Is it so far removed to ponder they may have done that to many humans also? It is a valid question, and one that is increasingly in the affirmative as you watch the way people behave and act globally. It is hive mind acting and thinking, which is just like a programmed bot, is it not? Unable to think or speak beyond what school, the government, the church or the media have told them to say. And for evidence of that, look no further than religions again. Have you ever seen or heard a talking snake? An immaculate conception? A tree spontaneously going on fire and starting to talk to you? Oceans parting and then snapping back? And if God is everywhere, as the book tells you, why did he make Moses climb a mountain to hand him a tablet of orders? Wasn't God, was it? It was the EBEs running this planet. And why did God throw his so-called children, they weren't, and neither were the human, out of the Garden of Eden for eating a sodden apple for life? Does that make any sense whatsoever? And the media plays a large role in formulating people's opinions with their propaganda program, which is another hint or link to the off-world gods again, as the real term is pro-pagan dar, which means for pagan skin. And the media shenanigans has been run for at least 150 years, and heightened more since the age of computers, and worse again with the rise of smartphones. Their news makes no sense or appears from another world also, which is why I've labelled them the portal people. News from a completely different world, where they make headlines, 1,000 dead from the virus, and the populace goes, oh my God, that's terrible, we're all going to die. All those poor people. Me? I'm asking, where is your proof of 100,000 dead? And you get silence. And then you have programmed bots turn on you and call you a conspiracy theorist, when less than half of 1% know the origin or the meaning of the word. But all I'm asking is, where is the evidence? It's a fair and basic question to ask, but oblivious to so many people, as it's far easier to slander the conspiracy theorist than face the prospect that the media lies to them. There has been much written about UFOs and ETs on the internet, movies and TV shows, from groups like the Pleiadians. I always laugh when I hear that term. That star system spans thousands of light years and billions of planets, and all we hear is how they are coming to save us and then patronise us by writing blogs and saying, hello dear ones. But according to the agreement, they were banned for contact, So all those that wrote the blogs prior to 2016, well, you make your own mind up. The Alcyon group were from the Pleiades, were guardians here in the past, and sold us out to the reptile group for technology. We heard for a while of biospheres all waiting to collect us by the Arcturians, only to find out they were food processing plants, to my knowledge. And we and many other species were their food. So our interactions, it has to be said, by and large, have been far from benevolent. And this is why all people need the knowledge surrounding this subject to be made available for future generations to get up to speed and not be at a massive disadvantage. The signing of the peace treaty ended many of the malevolent practices that EBEs and their agents on the planet perpetrated against us, and we can all be grateful for that. Yet how many have covered that news in the alternative media? Zero. Despite several groups claiming to be in contact with off-world species, do people not find that strange? There is no such one single group of positive ETs, period. And the same applies to humans as well. And then we come to something said about their planet's operations, of how they are run or governed, and they said this: the outcome of this process is that any form of political organising, including the politics of religious structure, becomes a personal moral transgression of higher shame to any who practice such pursuits than any good that could come from them. Straight out of the horse's mouth, so to speak. Moral transgression of higher shame to be involved in religion and political organising. And it's a lesson for us all, because governments and religious structures are purely there to control us. Both are a saviour programme. Both are required for people who won't take their own responsibility in life. They said their government was self-determination, which means they take their own responsibility. So why would he say that? It is because the EBE group, who have developed sufficiently from being children and have become adults as a race. And sadly, this planet is largely made up of people with child-level thinking. And I know some don't like to hear that. And I hate to say it myself. But it's a fact. Look around you. Look no further than the behaviour of so-called adults on social media. Some are actually worse behaviourally than the children. And then we have millions of people walking around with masks, when the symptoms of the virus is in part respiratory, and you want to keep that in. That's what I mean of child level thinking. The parent, the government in this case, told them this is the way to do it, just like the parents tell the children when they're young. As adults, we're supposed to question. As children, we just follow orders. This is what we can aspire to going forward. No government per se, just committees of people deciding what's best for and by the people in any given particular field. Many people complain about their governance and they are tyrannical. But when good people do nothing, is that not what you get from a government? Tyranny. And people will argue, no, they should do the right things. But no one is making them accountable. And government is now a complete harvesting system and a free-for-all, acting above the law, whilst the public sit there and by their silence are complying. This is what the EBE is telling you. Self-determination, self-governance. And being involved in government and religious fantasy is the highest shame ever. And the ideal goal is what the People's Club is trying to bring to you, where everyone participates, the people having a voice, caring and sharing society, need, not greed, and a return to natural law, all done under a cooperative banner. This then teaches personal responsibility, providing for yourselves, becoming more self-sufficient and away from the slavery system of doing jobs you don't wish to do for pay that for the majority is insufficient. So the final question to end tonight's show is, were the ETs showing up here beneficial for us or not? In my opinion, the ETs landing here turned out to be not the best for we the people at all, and served only to produce a massive benefit to those who wished to break away from humanity. Yes, you, the SS small p, and provide a massive opportunity for Majestic 12 and their clown minions in agencies to sequester vast fortunes of the people's money for secrecy and their clandestine operations. This whole programme has worked against us massively. And although some information has come out from various UFO groups, most of which was not the truth, as revealed in Part 1 and Part 2, because those groups were infiltrated by agency and Majestic minions to control and divert the truth from us all. The psychological damage of not revealing to us the truth is incalculable. But for those who ask what is the main reason now why the ET programme is not publicly revealed to all, there is one giant problem blocking that disclosure, and it's called religion. All of them. The disclosure of We're Not Alone will reveal that the god or gods you've been praying to were all ETs with too large of an ego, and were playing God to then subvert and control us. I expect during my lifetime that horrible truth, many may not believe now, will come to be the full truth and reality. The announcement of that full truth will be a major step of the people of this planet of finally stepping away from the childlike fantasy and illusion into a developing adult race, which will eventually be capable and responsible enough to travel the stars ourselves. That will be a glorious day for humanity. Imagine crafts built by a People's Club company, and not self-serving control system based people and groups like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Branson and or Musk, or the negative ET and Black Sun based organisation called NASA, or the SS small p either, as they are even worse. The SSP is a breakaway civilization group mired in the Dark Forces narrative and ideals that gained and used the advanced technology at our expense by meetings like described in these two shows. NASA and the SS small p are one and the same, created by the Black Eagle, Black Sun group, more commonly known as the SS. That same SS was around way before World War II, known as OSS, which morphed into, after these craft crashed, to the CIA, who now controls the narrative. These SS are not German per se, and Hitler was not the Black Eagle group either, or part of the main SS. These are the psychopaths that are a part of the Hebrew Anunnaki group, masquerading as Jews. Masquerading as Jews. I hope you heard that clearly. They are not representative of the Jewish people, although their Bible has lured in many of their ilk into that program. These people are Zionists, and that is where the term Nazi came from, by taking the first two letters and combining them from a political front called National Zionism, N-A-Z-I. And it all stems from the Anunnaki. Yet again, though, it shows the propensity for humans to sell out by being seduced by riches, titles and technology, and it has hampered humanity's progress on a massive scale because of a few unwilling to share anything. We have an opportunity now to rebuild the world in our image. We can be the voice of the people. We can be the enforcement. And we can be something better with the People's Club. And I ask all who listen to come and join us. All donations are voluntary. We don't charge fees for anything. So go to thepeoplesclub.org, and to think different, thepeoplesclub.org, to invest in humanity. We are our own saviours. Imagine a future where the People's Club becomes the dominant voice of the planet, all ran by the people, with no person in the lead role. It's all shared together. Do you think the ETs visiting from the future, in the future, will wish to come down and talk to governments, or a representative of a group of the voices of the people? The People's Club, once built, can provide that platform for the people acting in the right way to finally engage the peoples and beings from the stars. One can only dream currently, but it's up to us all to build that dream.